It's time to stop settling and get what you deserve. And you deserve to get Lux for less. Introducing the $7 Lux Cravings Box. Only at Taco Bell. How do I rebound when I'm run down? And does an off day make a difference? Unlock yourself with Whoop, the most advanced fitness and health coach. Spring just got stronger. Don't be fooled by fake fast food. Get sucking real with a delicious smoothie that's protein-packed with more oomph per ounce. Then throw that straw in your jaw and be sucking awesome. Only at Smoothie King.
8 straight laps!
We're not that bad. No way. We can at least play spoiler. Not again. Stacks, Soulsville, USA. Streaming exclusively on Max.
What's good, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode. I'm still here of Take Time Out with Tre Mosley. I am your host, Tre Mosley, and today we have a young man, and I was joking with him before we started recording that this brother makes me really get my audition game up because, I'm like, oh, I read for that. Oh, I read for that too. Oh, I read for that too. But when you hear what comes out and when you feel the read is like, okay, I see why he got it. Because he be on point, man. That's who he is. And if you don't know who he is, well, as I smack, today you'll find out. Mr. Robert Lewis, otherwise known as Smack Lewis, and we are going to get into that because he is not going to leave the show until we get I smacked again. So I got a throat thingy. So it's a cough drop. So yeah, nothing on my mic. I just thought it was apropos that he's smacking us. You know what? It doesn't matter. Smack Lewis is here, everybody. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, Tre? How you doing?
I'm good, sir. I'm good. Other than this little tickle in my throat. So as you know, we here on the good TTOT. I'm not good with the thingies, but I was trying to be cute. But here on this here podcast, Take Time Out with Tre Mosley. So it'll be TTO. We'll figure it out. We like to talk about the before. So I say to you, where do you hail from, sir?
Man, I hail from all over, but my formative years were spent in Rochester, New York, but I currently live in Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he went from the East Coast to way
That's right.
to the home of Nike.
That's right.
That's right. Have you been over there to the facility? Have you been inside?
I worked there for 4 years.
See? This is why I get people on the show, man. This is why you need the before.
Right.
See how that segued in?
Mhm.
So about that. So and let's rewind the clock a bit in all seriousness. So from Rochester, New York,
Mhm.
all the way to Portland, Oregon. That's a big hump. That's like the Hulk when he take a hop and he jump. That's a Hulk sized jump.
That's right.
What was life like growing up in New York?
Man, it was a blast. To be honest, I bounced around quite a bit throughout the years. I was actually born in Haiti. We spent, like I said, my formative years in Rochester, but I lived in Jersey and in New York City for a little bit. But a bulk of that time was spent in Rochester. It was cool, man. Naturally, I'm a Buffalo Bills fan. So I'm sorry. Love the Bills. Western New York is interesting, man. You grow up playing a lot of football, a lot of lacrosse. It's a really, really diverse city. And I'm sure most people know this, but it is extremely cold in the winter.
Oh yeah, I have friends that
Uh,
live in Syracuse,
yeah,
and I'm like, why are you there?
it gets too cold, man.
Why are you there?
So I had to get up out of there.
Between Syracuse and Schenectady
Yeah.
and Rochester, I'm like, why are you there?
Yeah.
But you said you had a blast, so I guess it wasn't a bad thing.
Yeah, it wasn't the worst.
Okay, well, that's what's
Yeah.
up. Now, I want to go back. You said that so New York, Jersey, and Haiti.
Mhm.
Um, you're a traveling young man. Why all the moves?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm Haitian born. My parents just wanted to come to the US. We had family here already. Um, so we just moved. I think I was 5 years old. Um, and we were just trying to figure out what made the most sense for us.
Right.
Um, and then at some point, uh, it just seemed like Rochester was a spot. And it worked. I really enjoyed growing up there. And I think a lot of the experiences that I had there really helped cultivate a lot of my interests and eventually where I ended up over the next, you know, 15, 20 years after that.
That's cool. Now, I will say, growing up in Florida, and particularly Miami, I grew up around a lot of Haitian folk. Them was my dudes, man. So as I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, should I call him Robert Louis or Louis? Because I know some Haitians really take the accent serious. Like I have
Yeah.
a
So
friend that's Pierre Louis, but he's like Pierre Louis. I'm like, so now let me be mindful and be sure it's cool that we going with Robert Smack Lewis and you could be Robert Louis. And he
so
like,
so number one, I have no idea where you got Robert from because that is not my name.
that's
So
because on the email.
that was an email from me.
Oh no, we have an imposter.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I need to go and look and see what the email said because I could have swore I saw Robert.
No, sir. No, sir.
Ooh.
But you're just gonna have to call me Smack. You don't get to know my real name. Worked out better for me.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
And a first. I pride myself on knowing my guests because I like to come informed, but not like cue card informed. So tell me, I could have sworn I saw something, and perhaps he's being coy with me, but I saw something that said Robert.
Not from me, big dog.
Are you
We
messing
can
with
move past that though. Most
me?
people call me Smack, so Smack is what it is.
Okay, well then where does smack come from?
Man, where did Smack come from? It's a college nickname. Let's just say
From the cross and you was giving them the business?
hey, it's let's just say I was involved in some non-criminal mischief that kind of made the nickname stick. Just youthful mischief.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. We're gonna we're gonna move on from that. Well, I guess the statute limitations have run out. So
Sure.
so you're good there.
Yeah.
No name Smack Lewis. Um it's a very awkward episode now.
Hey,
Um he has an alias and he may or may not have done some things in his minor youth. So maybe we'll edit all of this out and we're just I like to have people talk about the before, but maybe his before is a little too much for this show.
nah, it's not. I would say, just college. You party a little too much, and stupid nicknames come out of stupid situations, and they just stay.
All right. Well, see, it's not as bad.
Nah, nah.
Nah. And whoever that other imposter guy is, we're coming for
Yeah,
you.
we got to find out who Robert is because I don't know that man.
Doesn't know him. But still, like I said, as far as the Lewis part, are you particular of how it's pronounced, um, in regards to your, you know, to the Haitian culture?
Like I said, even when we came to this country, my parents were pronouncing our last name Lewis, just
Okay,
just just from the perspective of, becoming Americans and things like that, you kinda assimilate in that regard.
understood. Like
Yeah.
I said, because I do I had a one of my guests from the Philippines, um, Atticus Batakan, but I kept saying Batacan, and he's like, "No, it's Batakan," and I'm like, "Oh, all right, well, learn something
Yeah,
new today." So
right.
I like to make sure that I'm not butchering people's names because my name is Tremaine, and I have been called everything but for over 50 years.
Mm,
Shermaine, Charmaine, Chemaine, Termaine. I'm like, it's TRE. How did you, of all the letters, how do you flip and it's ter?
right.
But, dyslexia is a thing, and perhaps that's what it was. I don't know. So I eventually got to the point when I left Florida and I moved up north. Um, People act like they never heard the name Tremaine before, and I'm like, all right, we got to do something, or I'm not gonna make it. And I said, just call me Trey,
Yeah.
and here
Make it
we
easy for
are.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, make it easy, and until they start spelling it wrong and putting the
Right.
Y.
Y at the end. Yeah,
We could have a whole podcast about
I'm sure, man.
Mosley, Mosle. What? But that's not what we're
Yeah.
here for. That's my own trauma, and I'll deal with it. So, life in Rochester, we're gonna go back to that.
Yeah.
Um, so you've already brought about, you've been involved in, or you were involved in many different sports and things like that. Were you involved in any arts at all?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was always an artist. I used to draw, I used to paint, I used to sketch with charcoal, um, you know, to the point where I was intent on going to art school.
Art school. Okay.
Yeah, so, I had applied to the Art Institute of Chicago, the Pratt Institute in New York, um, and it had just never crossed my mind up until, it was time to turn in those college applications. You know, when you become a working artist, it's really hard to make a living that way.
Yeah.
And so I decided, you know what, I'm not actually going to do that. Um, I'm going to start out by going to community college instead. And my parents, I think the discipline and a lot of the values that they instilled in me just allowed me to also be really pragmatic. So I was a decent student. I used to read a lot. I had some interest in corporate America. you know, um, I had, lawyers in my family, and there was a part of me that was always interested in law. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to get my general credits out of the way. And I bounced from community college to uh, University of California, UCSB in Santa Barbara.
Mhm.
And I studied political science and minored in pre law. And at the same time, I was clerking at a law firm in undergrad. And I ended up transferring actually and ended up getting my degree from Penn State. But I moved back out west again, uh, back to LA, Southern California. And then I started working at a law firm in West Hollywood. So I did employment law for a little while as a litigation assistant while I was, studying for the LSAT because I wanted to go to law school. But I
Yeah.
had worked with a number of lawyers at that point who told me, listen, unless you absolutely love this, I wouldn't recommend it. And, it was paying the bills, and I felt proud of my job and the things that I was doing.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, I didn't mention this, but I was also making music. So I used to make hip hop music. And I was doing that since I was 15. So ciphers, recording sessions, the whole nine.
Well, if you take a look right back there,
Okay.
that is my MPC live.
Okay.
So I understand. I
Produces a little
still,
bit.
yeah, I do a little something. Do a little something.
Okay. Very cool. So yeah, so I was also doing that on the side. And I ended up leaving that law firm that I was at and ended up getting a job in HBO's legal department. So I was helping to draft and write up TV contracts and things like that.
That's cool.
Again, yeah, and again on the side, like while making music. And at some point, an engineer I was working with said to me, jokingly, actually, he was like, "Hey, man, if this music thing doesn't work out, you should look into voice acting."
Huh.
And I didn't take him seriously, really. And this was, I want to say, in 2015, 2016. And then I was still making music here and there. And then, funny enough, a buddy of mine from college was a producer at a radio station at Sirius XM. And he had put on Facebook, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody who can try to voice match this British rapper for some radio imaging for this female, this huge female DJ radio show." And I was like, "Oh, I could do that." So I messaged him. He's like, "Man, come into the studio real quick. Let's see if you could sound like Skepta." So he had me read a couple lines, because the intention was to make the listeners think that it was Skepta doing some of this
Yeah.
imaging. And they cut me a check for like $300, right? And it was like, for 30 minutes of my time, like I can get paid $300. So you think,
Ah,
mind blowing. So
yeah.
so at that point, I'm like, man, like this sounds kind of interesting. So that happened at the end of 2016 or early 2017. And I just went back to my back to my day job. You know what I mean? It was like, all right, that's cool.
Like
Like,
that was good, but
yeah, that was fun.
I'm working over here.
Right. But at the same time, the curiosity led me to one of the pay to plays. I ended up getting like a USB Yeti mic or something. It was recording out of my closet. Auditioned a couple times for some stuff on I forget which pay to play it was, but pretty quickly I booked a job that was like pretty big at the time. Felt big at the time. I think the check was like, the pay was, man, 2-3 grand or something like that. And I was like,
Man,
man, like I could
that's
do this from
that's a
time to
nice lick. That's a nice
yeah,
lick.
from time to time, right? And then I just got back to the grind, and I don't think, as embarrassing as it is to say, I didn't revisit voiceover again until 2020. And even that was just to, get on backstage or whatever it was and audition.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, we moved to so I left LA and I moved to Boston for a job. So Nike also owns Converse, and they gave me a job at Converse.
Mhm.
So I was in Boston for like 3 years, and then I got a promotion at Nike. So me and my now fiance moved from Boston to Portland shortly after the pandemic, and that's when I was like, you know what? I think I might want to try this voiceover thing again.
Ha.
And then that's where it started for real.
Yeah.
And ah, I would just get on Reddit or you know yeah, it was Reddit and YouTube and just trying to figure out, okay, how do people who do this for real do it, right? And then, you get all the information about, you get a demo made and you train a little bit and you reach out to folks, try to connect, do things for free, just to get your reps in and things like that. And man, I'm gonna be honest with you, my first demo I got made for $100,
Ooh.
with a dude I met on Reddit from the UK, and we did it over Source Connect. And I used that demo. I shopped it around, and
But did it get you work?
it got me my first agent.
So I'm glad you're telling this. And there's gonna be some folk that instead of Johnny Gill rubbing you the right way, it's gonna rub you the wrong way. I know people, I am people that have paid exorbitant amounts of money for demos to be made. Um, and what I have found most of the time is you're paying for the name, the person that's actually
Hmm.
doing the demo. But I also know some folks um, who are not very well known that um, can produce their asses off. And
Mhm.
it's just that they're not a known entity in the VO demo producing world. So because they don't have the notoriety or the name, and they say, "Hey, I can do your demo." Well, who are you? I'm that person.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know you. But then if you say, "Hey, there goes fill in the blank really big demo producer to the stars." Oh, I'm going to go with them because he did a demo for this guy and for that cartoon and for so to hear you say you met a guy on Reddit for a couple of bucks and it got your first agent, just eh,
Yeah, but with that, this guy was just getting into producing
wow.
and had no idea. So I lucked out in that deal. He had no idea what demo rates were going for. He was just getting involved. He was like, like I've never worked with a voice actor before. I've done some producing on the side for projects in school. But I think I have a good idea of how these things work. How
Mhm.
about we start and we just negotiated. He was like, well, how about $100 then? We just get on the line, you pick out some scripts and then I'll put it together for you. And
Yeah.
then and then I shopped it around heavy. And it was at that point that, there was another voice actor who lives in the area who I consider a mentor,
His
who
name
kinda
wouldn't be Dan, would it?
uh, it would be, and he's been showing me the ropes, you know, just helping me get a better understanding of what this industry is, what it takes to be good, what it
Yeah.
takes to, really tap into the art of play as it relates to voiceover. Because man, I used to just come in here and just read,
Right.
you know, and that won't really give you any longevity. I mean, you might get a job or two, but when you find out the level at which the best folks are competing, you got to take a different approach. You really got to tap into that inner child. You got to tap into play. You got to, this really has to be a place where you can be vulnerable. And I still struggle with that sometimes. The vulnerability part of it. But along the way, other mentors have come along. You connect with folks in the industry, and you learn as you go.
It's true.
Yeah.
Very true. And the Dan we're talking about is Dan Knocktribe, folks. So like, don't hit me. Like, who's Dan? It's Dan.
One of
So
the best narrators on the planet, man. It's ridiculous.
yeah, yeah, he just is.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan is that dude, and he has also been a good friend and mentor to me. Just make sure you don't drink beer with him because he's a beer snob. It's all about how you pour it and all that. We get into that all the time. But yeah, Dan has been very influential to a lot of people. Um, he and I were at I guess you want to call it a VO retreat of sorts, workshop. And there was this read I just kept struggling with. And I'm feeling really bad because I'm like, this is what I do. I do these reads in my sleep. But for some reason, I can't nail it. And he came up to me and he whispered in my ear. He was like, look, I, if you want to get this certain thing, do this and do this. And if you're trying to get a more sinister read, instead of using so much of this, kind of, and he was just, I felt like a rock, and he just came with the chills. Was like clink, 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 clink. Now do this. Clink, 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 clink. Now do this. And the things that he was telling me to do, I now incorporate into my reads, and I'm better for it because he took that time to you know chisel your boy up a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, so let's regroup. Uh, Moves from Haiti to the East Coast, goes from the East Coast to the West Coast, go to school, wants to be a lawyer. Some lawyers say maybe you don't want to be a lawyer, but you're like, nope, I kind of like this legal thing. I'm gonna stick with it, kind of, sort of. And voiceover wasn't really on the horizon because he was making beats. My man was out here drawing, you know, even had time for some some rambunctious play, we'll say. And he goes over to the swoosh. They like him. Say, hey, we're gonna move you back east. Huh? Just, just go. And he goes. He likes it there. The swoosh likes him, moves him up. Says, hey, gonna move you back west now. All right. I like her. She's coming with me. Okay, bring her too. And
Mhm.
now you're on the West Coast. You meet Dan, the snob the beer drinking snob, and you took a hiatus from VO. You got
Mhm.
back into VO.
That's right.
When did you say, all right, you know what? I've had my hands in many, 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 many pots, but I think this is the one I can cook and get to cooking. Like when did the VO thing hit? Because you were doing it just to make pocket change or some side money.
That's right.
Um, when did, and I don't want to say light bulb because for some people it's not really a light bulb or an aha moment. But at what point did you say to yourself, or you may have said to your girl, like, "Babe, I think I can. This might be all right. This might be the move."
Yeah, that's a good question. So Nike was going great. I was really enjoying my job there. Um, but I was, it was shortly after COVID. So a lot of us, so we working from home, and a big part of Nike is, the energy on campus.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it was magical, man. Like you're working with athletes, you're working with people who care about sport, people who care about fashion. And the energy was just nuts. And then COVID kind of changed that. Um, And I enjoyed my job, the one I had moved out here for, but I still wasn't getting enough out of it. I felt like, the Nike energy was different. So I left Nike and I got a higher position at Forbes. So I started uh, working at Forbes in their, one of the technology departments. Um, and after about a year, it was so challenging, man. And like the people I was working with, we just weren't gelling. It started to really take a significant toll on my self-esteem and my output. I couldn't sleep. But at the same time that, this was on a decline, voiceover felt like it was on an incline. And I think what happened was I started to feel more of an alignment,
Hmm.
right? Um,
Yeah.
and I slept on it. I prayed about it. Me and my fiance talked about it for so long. And then it also got to a point where even on the side, voiceover was making me more money than my day job was. So I think at that point, I was
Yeah.
like, should I, if I'm doing this part-time and it's looking like this, what happens if I
Go.
if I just
Yeah.
take the leap? So that happened December 2023, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So most of what I've done, again, only by the grace of God for me, it's just been while I was doing it part-time and training up and trying to figure things out. But
Yeah.
in December, when I took the leap, it feels like things kind of went parabolic from there.
It happens like that. Um, I had been in and out of VO um, between 2009 and I say between '09 and 12, 13, because between '09 and the teens, I was not working. Uh, and then I got employed uh, just part time and temping because I wanted to make sure if I'm going to do this VO thing, I want to have time to do it. So if I can get part time jobs or temp jobs, still pay bills, and try to focus on this VO thing, I want to be sure I'm in position to do so. But then one of my part time jobs turned permanent. I'm like, how am I going to do this? Because
Mhm.
I had really, in all honesty, I had gotten to the point where I did not want to do work for anybody else. Um, for those short or small VO jobs that were coming in, I enjoyed the freedom that they gave me. I'm like, so I just come in here, hop on Source Connect, or at that time I just had a my phone, you know, up to my ear talking to the guy, and he's like, "Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, give it to me again." You know what I mean? And I'm like, I know I don't have a studio, but this has to kind of be what it's like for folks that are going into studios or have home studios.
Right.
I'm like, I like this. And even as a kid growing up, um, I wrote poetry. I recited stuff at school. Um, the background was there. I just didn't know how to harness it as an adult. You know, it's funny because as kids, we we're like an untapped source of energy,
Yeah.
because we are just bursting with, oh, I can do this. I can go and jump off the second story of an apartment building and not hurt yourself. We just have this adventurous spirit. And then
Mhm.
we get older, it's like, I'm afraid. I don't want to do that. Or what happens if I fall? Or what if someone says something bad about me? All this stuff just kind of,
Mhm.
closes in on us. And I got to a point where I'm like, well, I have to really stop worrying about what other people think and say about me. Let's make the jump. And I did. And I remember I sent
How scary was that, making the jump for you?
so my wife tells me, and I have this saying, and I'm gonna get a T-shirt eventually. I'm what's known as a habitual line stepper.
Okay.
Because, and I say that because I will do just enough to get the results that I'm looking for without violating any criminal act or anything like that. So to answer your question, I was working for PNC, and I remember just sitting there. You ever see those movies where the person is sitting there and everything by them is just, and they're sitting still, but life is going by them, is just moving at warp speed. That was
Yeah.
me. And I'm sitting here at my desk. I worked in loss mitigation, which in the mortgage world, our job is to either help folks who are underwater with their mortgages, um, you know, modify the loan so they can afford it, or liquidation and try to help them sell it. Or if it's already too late and they in foreclosure, y'all gotta go. Unless we get 10 grand from you in the next 72 hours, y'all gotta go. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's out of my control.
Right.
That was stressful, you know, having to tell people that the home of their dreams, or their first home, or, I remember talking to a lady. She was in her 29th year of her 30-year mortgage, and things got underwater for her. I'm like, how can I tell this woman who has a year left to where her house is paid off that she gotta go? Like, yeah, I'm out. So
Right.
I wrote an email to my boss, and I just told him, effective immediately after lunch, I'm not coming back. I'm done. And he must have got it instantly, because sometimes, most bosses, they'll just get your email and come circle back to you later. But I saw his head pop up from his cube, and he walked over to me. He's like, "Hey man, you sure you want to do this?" I'm like, "I am absolutely sure. I want to do this because I just feel like something greater is out there for me, and this ain't it. I'm sorry."
There's something so powerful about that, man. There's something greater out there for me.
Yeah,
I feel like just having that intuition, I feel like, sometimes life gets in the way of us being able to listen to our intuition.
yeah.
So I think the fact that you were able to say that and walk out with that kind of confidence is
Now, at the same time, brother Lewis, don't get it twisted, because I'm walking out with my head up high and I'm feeling good. But I got in that car like, all right, so it's crossed the line now, bruh. What
mhm,
you gonna do?
that's
But
right.
I do like I always do. Um, for me, there is no plan B. I had plan A all along. and that was to get good at this and start using resources that were available to me. So that's hopping on YouTube and going to conferences. And I think for conferences, I wanted to make sure that if I was going to a conference, that's when I would implement a game plan. Yes,
Okay.
it's good to see people. Yes, it's good to shake hands and get hugs and take selfies. But at my infancy in this industry, and I still have the book to this day, um, somewhere around here, but I wrote down in that book, and every now and then I pull it out, like one of those black notebooks that people used to always have in school. And I was like, I want to do promos, animation, video games, and trailers. And I remember a temp job I had working at Comcast uh, in their customer service department. I'm like, I know customer service. I wasn't paying attention. I'm sitting around the room because at this Comcast office where they trained us, they had a poster here for something on Stars. They had a poster here for something on Showtime. So instead of paying attention to the trainer, I'm writing down what that says. Get Stars for only $12.99. And then on my lunch break, I'm like, get Stars now for only 12. I'm doing not knowing that I'm doing
Yeah.
promos, but I'm doing it. And I see this one, you know, coming to Showtime this April. So and so and so. And I'm like, all right, write that down. And
Yeah.
I get to the crib, get on the mic, and just hit record. And I would do it a few times. Like, well, what if it's a happy show? You know, get starts with blah blah blah. And I'm learning how to shift my energy from a serious read to energetic. Uh, if they want it more serious, then you drop your tone down. They want something with passion. And
Mhm.
because I'm envisioning if I'm getting direction from someone
Right.
and they say, okay, give it to us with bursting energy. I can give you that. We want it more somber. I can give you that. However they wanted it, I wanted to make sure that when I finally got in front of those people that made those decisions, I was going to be ready.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it was scary. You know, one thing I will say then versus now, even though I'm still a habitual line stepper, it's more calculated. Only because back then when I was crossing lines, I was a single man. So if it affected anybody, it was just going to affect me.
Right.
If I would have, stepped out on faith to do VO and was broke for 2 years, that's just going to hurt me.
Right.
Once me and my now wife, then girl, then fiance got together, I had to be a little bit more different. Like, yeah, but if I do this and it don't work, now we got her and the pot man and all
Mhm.
right. So I had to be more calculated with it. The beauty of that, she was on board. So it's like, you mean it's okay if I cross the lines? Like,
Yeah.
do what you got to do because I know this is what you want to do. And I remember her telling me, because I would hate the day that I come home from work and you're not doing VO and you sitting there with your lip poked out and you hear people that you've met already and maybe even befriended doing promo or a game and you like, that could have been me. Yeah, it could have been you if you wouldn't have gave up. I'm like, you're
Right.
right. So getting that permission, if you will, to go and do my best to be good at this thing, um, it really put a battery in my back to keep going. But it was very scary. It was
Yeah.
very, very scary. I remember coming to her saying, look, did make too much money in VO this month. Thankfully, I got the part-time gig. I was working at the supervisor of elections, talking to little old ladies, telling them where to go, find the poll and vote. And like, you have such a lovely speaking voice. How do you, young man? I'm like, this ain't what you call for. I got a daughter that's about your age. She 37. Yes, ma'am. I'm seeing somebody. Oh, are you local? I'm like, what is going?
That's funny.
So no, bruh, it's because the thing about customer service, which I've heard through the years, a lot of my trainers, like people can hear you smile through the phone, like that. What is that even? But in VO, it's a life experience I've taken from customer service because when I get certain promo, you have to smile in the copy.
Yeah.
Like, how did how did they? So I call that a God thing. That's a God thing
Yeah.
because you can't explain it, but somehow something from your past helps you now in VO. Is like, yeah, okay,
Absolutely.
that's a God.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, man, because when you talk about, crossing that line and you know, getting permission from your partner to do this, um, I've also found that you have a better chance of success at doing the thing that you enjoy and also happen to be good at.
Hello.
So, you know what I mean? Your probability of succeeding in this, if you ask me, was obviously much greater than ever, rising up the ranks at PNC telling people that they got to give the house back.
Right.
you know?
Very true. Very true. But no, it was, that time frame was it was difficult and it was scary because um let's see, between 2012 and 2015, I had an eviction. I had a breakup. I had a repo. I had numerous things cut off to the point to where I had to get a Google phone number so I could use it across Wi-Fi because T-Mobile had shut your boy down. Um, I had been through, my roller coaster at that point was I was screaming all the way down, but I knew that in order to go back up, I had to hold on to that cart that I'm sitting in and go on down. But that come up is gonna come fast if you
Right.
holding on. So
Right.
I held on and just again doing things I needed to do to in order to get to where I wanted to get. Um and yes, having someone in your life that is uh very supportive and gives you permission to she used to always tell me right before a session, she would give me either a kiss on the forehead or on the cheek, and she would say, "Go be great." And the first couple of times, it's like, "Oh, thank you, baby. That's so sweet." But then, as I'm now starting to book bigger and bigger things, clients now want to. Well, hey, we would love to have you in studio. I said, "Well, I'm in Florida. Well, we'll fly you to New York." I'm sorry. Y'all want me that bad? You go, yeah. At least for the first, couple of sessions, we want to have you in studio with us. We'll talk to your reps and we'll fly you out. I was like, baby, this big, because they want to fly,
Shoot.
and that was for NASCAR.
Uh,
Um, which is why I am. It is it warms my heart to see brothers and sisters doing NASCAR now because prior to that. And I've gone back and looked at NASCAR promos years and years and years back. I had not heard any people of color. And when I did it, people kept saying, I think you're the first, you know, person of color do NASCAR. I'm like, that can't be. We've had NASCAR drivers of color. You mean to tell me not one black person has done the promos?
right.
They're like, not before you. I didn't know what to say about that.
Right.
And to this day, I'm gonna hold on to that until someone shows me proof. But if y'all say I was the first, I will gladly take that, and now to see that that baton has been passed, um, I'm like, man, look at this. Just wow.
Yeah,
So
no,
yeah,
it's nice to see. It's nice to see so many of us in the mix now, man. Truly,
it really is.
yeah.
Um, and I want to touch on that too, because even in the current climate that we're in VO, um, as actors of color, we've made strides, and we also have many more miles to go. How do you feel as uh, a person of color in this business? Do you feel as if sometimes they do not know how to properly cast, or there are assumptions that are made due to certain stereotypes? Have you encountered things where you like, for real? That's what y'all, like, do you? I can tell by your smile, you're like, yeah. So,
Well, I'm gonna give you a political answer. Is what's gonna happen. Um, these things transcend VO. It doesn't just happen in VO. It happens, when you walk into a store. It
Mhm,
walks in when you're on the phone trying to get to somebody, get to a particular person. It happens when you're meeting new people for the first time. Um, but particularly as it relates to VO, yeah, there are moments where they'll want something, but they won't ask for it directly. And, you know, unfortunately, that's just part of the game.
yeah.
That's how I look at it. It's part of the game. And my job is, as an actor, is to match what they're looking for as authentically as possible.
Mhm.
And if I can't do that, it's not for me. It's not for me. I'll catch the next one.
Have you had any roles that perhaps you or some other entity felt you were perfect for, but then once you took a look at the dialogue, you was like, yeah, so I appreciate it, but your boy don't get down like that.
There's nothing that has really challenged my integrity that I've come across, thankfully.
But that's
But I know what it would look like if it did, because I've heard about other people getting certain copy that I wasn't booked on. I'm like, well, good thing they didn't try to book me on this because I wouldn't have read this. Um, but yeah, again, man, it's part of the game and it's unfortunate, but I think
yeah.
I am seeing more and more that the producers I'm starting to work with are a bit more diverse, a little bit more. They know how to read the room a little better.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm optimistic. Let's just say that.
Now, do you have a no list? I have a short no list of things that I just absolutely um, will not do. Um,
Yeah, it's funny, man. I think generally speaking, even in life, I don't like to put myself in a box, and there are only a few things that I have strict parameters about or around. I just feel like I take things as they come,
yeah,
and if I don't feel right about it, I'll know it in that moment. I trust my gut enough. I think my gut is sensitive enough in the right ways to where if something isn't right, I'm gonna feel it and I'm not gonna do it.
true.
You know? But until then, I like being accepting of what comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing that I really will just go, nah, I can't do it. When it comes to making fun of one's uh, religious or cultural beliefs, just for me, I can't fool with it. I had a guy reach out to me and wanted me to do some stuff, and I'm like, yeah, the religious tones in this are just a little too much hot sauce on my greens. I can't.
Mm.
I can't do it. And he like upped the price by half. I'm like, I could use that right now.
Mm,
But he's like, it's just satire. I said, yeah, but it's satire against religion. And, you know, I tried to be as political in my denial of it, but for him to just keep, I'm like, why are you putting a lot of money behind this? And I keep telling you no, and you keep upping. I'm like, I want to see
yeah,
just how far he was, and he was still climbing. At
yeah.
one point, it was like 10 grand. I'm like,
Mm.
I can't do it. He's like, all right, man, you're gonna miss out.
Now
I
let
don't
me ask you this. Have you ever done a job though, and in hindsight, you wish you didn't do it?
Yeah.
Mm,
Um, but it wasn't because of anything on my no-no list. It was just badly produced.
mm,
And I'm like,
mm.
hmm. And now I am forever attached to this. And I know it's like, well, it ain't your fault, it's production. But no, they gonna scrutinize everything.
Mhm.
I could have had the best version of my voice, but if you heard more of the music than me in the bed, it's like, well, how come we hear most it sounds like he's down here. And I could have been talking up here, but by the time they produced it, music here, and I'm like, over 10,000. I'm like, why does it sound like I'm underwater with Aquaman?
Yeah, that's
So
just another one of these things where like that we just can't control, unfortunately. And it's funny because in the session you'll think like, man, like that sounded good. I can't wait for this to come out. And then you see it and it's like, oh,
yes.
yeah,
Yes, 1,000 times yes. So yeah, there
yeah,
there have been some. I'm just falling off the rails here. But there have been actually that's not bad. Let's keep it like that. There have been some that you know, there are a couple of sessions and I know we did at least 12 takes of this thing.
yeah,
And that's the one. That's the one you choose. So yes, there
yeah,
I've had a pocket full of those that I'm
yeah.
just all right. It is what it is.
What would you say, and yeah, I'll just ask you this. What would you say is your favorite VO medium? Like, I mean, as far as promo, commercial, trailer, what have you found the most joy doing?
That's a four-pronged question. And I'm going to answer it like this. The medium that I get the most joy from is narration. The medium that keeps me the busiest is promo. The
Mm,
medium I wish I had more opportunities to do is trailers. But the medium that I love and was in that book that I wrote that was at the very top of it was animation and games. What's interesting about that, how I wanted to come into the business is not how I stayed in it. So I wanted to come in doing games and animation. I didn't get my first opportunity for a video game until 10 years later when I started doing Madden.
wow.
Yeah. So it's like it was still on the list and I could still scratch it off, but it took 10 years to get there. Promos came pretty quick.
I can see that.
Narration came pretty quick because I remember doing a lot of narration, especially back in the early days of Voice 123. There were a lot of corporations doing a lot of corporate narration. Um, and I was cleaning up, you
Yeah.
know, 500 here, 1,000 here for a 90-second or a 2-minute or a 5-minute. And they would just keep coming back. Hey, we have this series we're doing. I'm like, all right. I said, y'all know it's like it was 1,000. Yeah, well, and we'll I'm like, and you okay with that? How many videos you got? We have like 5. Tell me more.
Right.
you know. So
Right.
narration was that thing because growing up as a kid, I watched a lot of Wild Kingdom, um, and then growing up as an adult, I love the Planet Earth series.
Yeah.
So documentaries have always been um, an integral part of my growing up because I just love how people told stories.
Yeah.
So any opportunity I get to do a documentary or to narrate anything, I'm like, I'm on it.
Right.
So yeah, that would be my answer. Um, so I
That's it.
say to you, um, because I mainly hear you on a lot of promos as well. Um, are you looking to dip your toes in any other VO forms?
I'll be honest, man. I like what I'm doing. I feel like I'm doing mostly promo and commercial. Um, Trailer would be nice. Trailer would be nice.
So say we all.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and you do a little bit of on screen too.
That's right. That's right.
So how did that occur? Because that's something we didn't touch on.
Yeah.
Um, in addition to, music production, hand drawing and art, now voiceover. But I didn't see you on a couple of screens here, boss. So how
That's
did we
right.
get into that there
You know, I'm gonna
department?
I'm gonna tell you just like I told a friend of mine this morning. Actually, I feel like as far as we know, we only have one life on this plane. You have to romanticize your life.
I like that.
You really have to squeeze everything you can out of this thing. If you feel like and I feel like over the last couple of years, I really got back in touch with again my intuition, my curiosity, and trying to max out who I am and
Yeah.
what I can do. I feel like I wasted, maybe not wasted, but I used a couple of years that I could have spent learning about me to help other people achieve their dreams or accomplish their goals. And now I'm like, what else can I do?
Hmm.
And so, like I said, I used to rap, played sports, did art. Voiceover is where I feel the most alignment right now. And just, around this, I would say September of last year, I said to my fiance, I was like, you know what? I think I can act too. I think I can act. I'm gonna start taking some classes. Took some classes for a couple of months. Uh, did like a self-tape demo,
Okay.
got got represented in some big markets. And then man, I'm blessed right now.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, I'm I'm on, a TV show, a new season coming out at the top of the year. I did a Netflix movie coming out next year. I've
Come
done
on
some
now.
I've done some commercials around here. It's been good, and it's just because I'm curious about myself, man. And I feel like I would love it if most people were curious enough about their own potential.
Yeah. That is so dope to hear you say. I showed you the
Mhm.
squad back there. Part of the reason I got back into it um has a lot to do with what you said about squeezing as much as you can out of this life. A good friend of mine passed away some years ago from COVID. Probably the dopest producer no one ever knew. And he and I used to collab on stuff. Matter of fact, my animated series, one of his gifts to me before he passed, he made a track for the show. And I'm like, man, I really wish his brother was still around. And we didn't talk as much as we used to, but when we did, I'd always hit him in the back. I can just hit the what you doing now? Man, just put a little something together. And what you think about this? And I'm like, I don't know that I had a little too sharp. Yeah, and we just would be bouncing ideas. We were in a singing group at one point. Um, music has always been in my life. And I said, well, I sat here looking at all this equipment that I had bought that I never used. And I'm like, all right. it's time to go to work. So I start unboxing everything. And it's funny because the music actually used to be at the desk where I am now, but I switched everything around. But I just started working on uh I got like a slow jam track. Uh I got this crazy hip hop beat. I don't know where it came from, but I was just listening and I'm just like, this is wild. Like, who did this? And I think it's part of him and me that comes out, especially when I am feeling musical. Um, I wrote a gospel song, uh, got a little R&B joint that I wrote. So I definitely feel what you're saying about squeezing as much out of this life. I got a few screenplays, like short films that I've written or in the process of writing. Then I'm working on my animated series. So I feel you 100% because I don't want to leave this earth with any what ifs in my head, um, or regrets.
Hmm.
There are things that I may have said and done that have affected or hurt people. And for that, yes, I'm sorry I said or did those things. But
I forgive you, Trey.
you know what? That's all I need that's all I need to hear. I'm good now. I am redeemed. But as far as things I've done to help my career or to help my family, or if I may be so grandiose, to help myself, I don't regret that because
Right.
I did what I needed to do, what I had to do, what I wanted to do to make sure I got where we needed to be. And if it didn't hurt nobody, it ain't gonna hurt nobody.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, man. If y'all have learned nothing else today from this interview, squeeze what you can. Sometimes they say, is the juice worth the squeeze? Well, you got to squeeze the juice. You got to squeeze that orange to get the juice. That's the only way you know. So, yeah, that I appreciate that tidbit right there. Um, as we wrap, and I have to ask um, you this question because it is how we end the show, and I ask it of all of my guests. How does no first name Smack Lewis um take time out for himself?
Man, that's hard. Actually, no, it's not. I spend time with my fiance and my dog. I think when I'm not spending time with them, I'm focused on, trying to elevate, and that can get exhausting. And sometimes you need some reprieve from comparing yourself to folks, seeing what other people are doing, trying to figure out what you could do better. Sometimes you just need to enjoy the moment. And I often have a hard time being present, but they make it easy. So, um, spending time with my fiance and my dog, they're the only family that I have on the West Coast here. So, I try to get the most out of that.
What type of dog?
So Buddha is a Rottweiler Lab mix.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, he's gorgeous.
Rottweiler Lab.
Mhm.
I I will need to see pics of that, sir.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's an interesting mix. Um, hmm. And I love dogs, but one dog in particular, um, greyhounds fascinate me.
They fascinate me too, but maybe not in the best ways. I think when I see them, the question that comes up to mind is why do you look like that?
That is not why they fascinate me, sir. I love greyhounds just because you know greyhounds remind me of an exotic automobile, just the sleekness and then they're already fast. So I'm like, but I always wanted a greyhound. Um, I'm just a fascinating dog to me. I love German shepherds, Dobermans too.
Mm,
They look majestic.
they do.
Like if I had a big, well-to-do mansion that I would just have my Dobermans just sit out there with the ears up, and somebody come to the house, they're like,
Hmm.
who are you, sir? Like
Right.
I would want them to talk and, maybe use their nose and hit the button like, boop. Sir, there's an individual on the premises. How should I? How do you want us to proceed? I'm
That's
like,
funny.
stand down. That's the pool man.
Right.
Confirmed. We should. They just had that look like that's how they would sound all the time. And
Yeah.
if you bow up on them, now they're gonna get on their hind legs. You leave me no choice.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
will not have to thrash you. But yeah, that's we have a cat here who feels as if he runs the place. And sometimes he does. But we mustn't let him know that because then all hell would break loose. But Smokey, way before, people had these support pets or service
Mhm.
pets, he was that for me. Um, especially in those years when VO wasn't cooking, work wasn't cooking, relationships wasn't cooking. He was like right there. So he I sometimes I will turn the blind eye to some of the things he's done because I'm like, when all the buildings fell, man, you was the only building standing tall. So I'll let you get a pass this time. So I get it.
Yeah.
Um, before we depart, how can folks follow you on the socials and see some of your glorious work and your
Yeah. Yeah.
good stuff?
Smack Lewis on Instagram and smacklewis.com. That's where you'll find me.
It's like a dig 'em smack. You smack me and y'all know the rest. Well, if you know your hip hop, you know the rest. And if you don't, shame on you. Uh he is Smack. I am Trey, and we thank you for watching this episode. Now go squeeze some life and take some time out for yourself. Until next time, we out of here. Thanks for listening to the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley podcast, part of the Titan Media Network. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcast. To see the video version of this, you can find us on YouTube on the Take Time Out with Tre Mosley YouTube page. Thanks for listening, or thanks for watching. Either way, we'll see you next time.